through the Underground Railroad. And she was also a Merlander. Yeah, thank you, Millie. Yeah, she was a Merlander. So kind of keep that in mind. We talked about buffer zone already, and I want to hustle a little bit because I don't want to keep y'all too long. Does anything jump out up here from chapter 2? Because this is really the big chapter. Go ahead.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Schoolhouse Rock was the video that was dealing with the Declaration of Independence. If you remember Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness, where the woman was chasing after the man, and they recited the Schoolhouse Rock, in Schoolhouse Rock, the Declaration of Independence, at least part of it, and there were a number of symbols. So look that one over.
What about it do we need to know? Just what it was?
Yeah, I mean, look it over and see if there's anything that jumps out, because we talked a little bit about what the Declaration means,
Right.
and it's more than just life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So there were those.
Treason against England.
Yeah, there's treason against England. What else do we talk about? That's a bad sign.
Yeah.
Because I read it off in both classes. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. You remember the word that got repeated over and over again? What's that, Kimberly?
Liberty.
Liberty, not liberty. There was one word. Not property.
Independence.
Not independence. Oh, Diva, the look on your face. Not people.
I said equal.
Men.
Not equal.
Men?
He was repeated over and over again. He endeavored to prevent. He obstructed. And he was referring to the king. If you remember with the Declaration of Independence, it was basically a legal justification for separation from Great Britain. And the person that they blamed by repeating he over and over again was the king. Who was given credit for largely writing it? Thomas Jefferson. And if you remember, we talked a little bit about that with the back of the $2 bill when I had shown y'all this. Who was it written for? Oh, it's going to be a bad exam. We discussed, and a lot of y'all said it was written to educate the people, but the wording on it, many of them wouldn't have understood. Some of y'all said that it was written for the king, but the king was the world power. The king's not going to listen to a bunch of dirt farmers. What did you need in order to stand up to the world power? What's that?
Did I say money?
Money. You needed an ally, and who was the ally that bought it? France. Yeah. Oh, y'all, this is going to be bad. Going to be bad. So the Declaration of Independence was written by Jefferson, written about the king, written for allies, legal justification for separation from Great Britain. What else have you got in chapter 2? Because it looks like we got to spend some time here.
General fractions.
General fractions. We talked about a frick load of fractions in the chapter. What are the fractions that you remember right off the top? What's 3/5?
Oh, 3/5. It was.
But they wanted to count they wanted to count slaves as 3/5.
Yes, 5 slaves equals 3 people, or a slave equals 3/5 of a person, and they did this for representation purposes and taxation purposes under the new Constitution. So a free person counted as 1 full person, and a slave counted as 3/5 of a person. What other fractions can y'all think of?
2/3.
What's 2/3?
In order for Congress to override a veto.
2/3 overrides a veto, and 2/3 does something else.
Ratifies an amendment?
Not ratifies, proposes an amendment. A 2/3 vote of Congress will propose an amendment. A 2/3 vote of Congress will override a presidential veto. 5 slaves equals 3 people, or a slave is equal to 3/5 of a person. What was 3/4?
It's to ratify.
3/4 to ratify what?
To ratify.
An amendment.
Zoom in on her. To ratify what?
An amendment.
To ratify an amendment. 3/4 vote by the what?
By the state.
3/4 of the states, or only what? 13 states will kill a constitutional amendment. What was 9/13?
9/13.
To amend the Articles of Confederation? Is that what you said?
To amend bills in the Articles of Confederation.
to pass bills. You needed 9 out of 13 in order to pass bills under the Articles of Confederation. What else was 9/13? Ratify
Amendments.
the Constitution. Yeah. If you wanted to amend the Articles of Confederation, what vote did you need? None?
No.
Yeah, no, not. 9 passes a law, but what do you need to ratify an amendment to the Articles of Confederation? All of them. It had to be unanimous or 13/13. Make sure that y'all are clean on these fractions, because there'll probably be a fraction or two type of a question that's on here. What other questions have y'all got from this?
Pursuit of happiness.
Pursuit of happiness. What was the pursuit of happiness another word for?
Property.
Property, it was. It was life, liberty, and property in the social contract. It became life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness when Jefferson wrote it. And if you remember in Schoolhouse Rock, what happened every time the pursuit of happiness was said? Oh. What's that?
The chasing.
You-
Yeah, the chasing.
The man was chasing after the woman, and I had mentioned to you that it seems a little sexual, but really women were kind of considered property back then, so they were kind of telling the truth when they put that up. What else have y'all got from chapter 2?
Preamble?
Don't worry about the preamble. We'll take that one off.
Full faith and credit clause?
You know what? Let's take the full faith and credit clause off too. Go ahead, Aaron.
What articles in the Constitution?
What was Article 1?
That's Congress.
Article 1 was Congress. What was Article 2?
Executive.
Executive. What was Article 3?
Judicial.
Judicial branch. What was Article 5?
No idea.
Oh, it's going to be bad. Article 5 was the amendment process for the Constitution, 2/3 and 3/4. What was Article 6? Y'all all just had it today.
Supremacy clause.
Supremacy clause in Article 6, and Article 6 is the one place in the Constitution before the amendments where religious freedom was mentioned. So keep that in mind. Article 7. Oh, this is going to be fun, y'all. Oh, it's going to be fun. Go ahead.
Is the article 6? I know, that's actually.
The articles. What is the unanimous? The 13 out of 13.
That's to amend the Articles of Confederation. Amend the Articles of Confederation. Go ahead, Ms. Manuel.
And I just wanted to confirm for Article 4, can we say the U.S. shall guarantee to every state in the Union?
Don't worry about Article 4. Yeah, I'll take Article 4 off, and we'll come back to that with federalism after the break. After the break, yeah. Article 7, ratification of the Constitution. It was only used one time to ratify the Constitution. Anything else that jumps out up here? Don't worry about criminal searches. We didn't get to that. Looking at articles while y'all still think about this, and there's a decent chunk of articles that are on here. Bear with me. Articles from chapter 2. And there's some good ones that are in this. And remember, I'm not going to try and trick you with how I put things on here. I mean, if it's stuff that we talked about a good chunk, these are things that are going to be on there. I will maybe try and trick you with how I put it on there. Social media was Anthony Ellenis, and there's a link for this too. Do you remember what Anthony Ellenis did?
Oh, he had like really horrible lyrics about killing people on his Facebook.
Who? It's like specific. Yeah, I need the flowers in the garden on this one.
Her ex.
Tone
His ex.
What's that?
Tone
Dougie.
Tone Dougie.
He was, his rap name was Tone Dougie. Anthony Ellenis. Who's trying to kill?
Ex-wife.
Ex-wife, yes, he had made rap lyrics that were dealing with the killing of his ex-wife. Anything else?
School shooting.
School shooting. Anything else?
And a police officer.
FBI agent. Yeah, do you remember any of the specifics of his lyrics? I'm not gonna rest.
And piss. No.
I'm not gonna rest and piss? No, he didn't say that. I'm not gonna rest till your body is a mess, soaked in blood and dying. You remember what he said about the FBI agent?
Yeah,
He said he wanted to
all
shoot
this
her.
strength not to, like, wasn't it like smack that bitch?
Smack that? No, that's other lyrics that you're listening to. That wasn't Anthony Ellenis.
It was.
It was.
It was.
Took all this, that FBI agent lady stood so close
Yeah.
Took all the strength I had not to
Choke
turn
that
that bitch ghost.
That's what it was.
Yeah, not smack her, but ghost. That was his best one.
Yeah.
Go back and look at the link on there, and like I said, the flowers in the garden. Make sure that you can give me some specifics. He was originally convicted. Do you remember how long he got?
Got over a year.
It was over a year. It was about 40 months, I think. Let me double check on that. Originally, I think it was like 44 months in prison is what he got. So it's a little bit less than 4 years. Did he win? Because he sued. He sued. He was locked up for threatening these folks, threatening to shoot up a school, threatening to kill his wife, it looked like, threatening to do something to a federal agent. He was sentenced to 44 months, and what was his argument? Do you remember?
There's therapeutic or something.
He said that these rap lyrics are therapeutic. He said, this is me demonstrating my freedom of speech. He said, this is creativity because these are my rap lyrics. Did the court buy it?
Yeah.
They did. They actually threw out his conviction. They sent it back to lower court, so he did not end up serving 44 months on this. They ultimately said in there that, yeah, maybe this could be therapeutic, but the bigger thing was there was no proof that he would really follow through on any of these things. There wasn't any record, there wasn't any, weapons laying around, nothing when they actually investigated. Yes?
Are we supposed to remember like the lyrics from word to word?
Well, I mean, if you want to impress me, I would make sure, listen, the term that describes this is I need to know the flowers in the garden. I am never going to forget that. So tell me the flowers in the garden. You remember our webcams?
Yeah.
What was webcams?
It was the cameras in the cars that showed both like the front of the car and the person driving, and they would activate whenever a certain G-force was.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Who were the drivers that they
New
put the
drivers.
cameras? What's that?
New driver.
New drivers, teen drivers, the worst drivers on the road. And they put two cameras basically in there. One that would capture the entire front seat and one that would capture what the driver saw. And you're right, if it would activate by G-forces. So if you accelerated too fast, if you hit the brakes too hard, if you swerve too dramatically, it would click on. And how long would it film?
30 seconds.
I heard somebody say 1 minute, really not sounding confident about it. Becky, you started to mutter something.
I said 30 seconds.
Yeah, a little bit less than 30. I think it was like 20 seconds. And then where would these clips go?
They would go to the company.
They would go to the company and then they would go to the parents. And the idea is that if you were doing something that led to you swerving that wasn't good driving, then at that point the parents would have the ability to address it and make you a better driver. And if you did something that was actually going to be justified by the video, meaning it could clear you from any wrongdoing, then of course that would still go back to the parents, but it would demonstrate that it would exonerate you, I guess is basically what I'm trying to say. Did drivers get better?
Yeah.
They did. The worst drivers got how much better? 86% better, meaning 86% fewer of these emails went to the home of the parents at the end of the first year for the people that were the worst drivers at the beginning of the year. What was the argument as far as why they didn't want these cameras in their cars?
Privacy.
Privacy is one, but something even more basic. Property. And if you look at all of these articles that we ran through up here, social media with song lyrics, his lyrics were his property. Web cameras, your car is your property. Melissa Nelson, you remember what happened with Melissa Nelson? Go
She
ahead.
got exposed, right?
She got exposed? That's a different article, I think. Yeah,
Was that
different
the-
class.
Was that the dentist?
It was the dentist. What, she was the dentist?
No, she
No,
was the
there was-
assistant.
She was the assistant dentist.
Yeah.
She was the dental hygienist.
Oh.
She was the hygienist. And what happened to her?
She was too sexy for her job.
Is that really what it
She
was?
was too
She got fired
attractive,
for being
so
too
she got.
sexy for her job.
She was fired because of irresistible attraction, and it was because the argument was that maybe she dressed a little too tight. And we talked about this. How can you make scrubs sexy? You don't have to answer that on camera, but you get the idea. She was fired. What ended up happening out of all this?
The dentist hired again another female assistant, and this was Italy. What was the state? I can't remember. But
What was the state?
Illegal. How do you spell? Is it?
Wasn't Illinois. Go ahead.
Ohio.
Not Ohio, but really close.
Iowa.
Michigan.
Yeah, it was Iowa. This was actually in Iowa.
Yeah.
And see, so he hired a woman to replace her, so it wasn't sexist
Or discrimination.
or discrimination. But what was the real controversy about this? Because there were two. One was discrimination and one was something else.
He's got to
The
tell his
wife.
wife.
His wife was really the one that fired her. She was the office manager, or she made him fire her. So he's like, I need to fire you. This is my business. This is my marriage. These are kind of like my properties, if you will. That's kind of where we were going with this, if
And
you
she
remember.
lost, right?
And she lost, and that's the other controversy. What was the other piece to this? Because she didn't just lose once, did she?
She lost twice.
Why?
Without any needed new evidence.
The Iowa Supreme Court, the all
Yeah.
male
All
Iowa
white
Supreme Court. The all-male Iowa Supreme Court said while it might not be a nice thing to do, it was not illegal or discrimination for him to fire her. And they reopened the case even without any new evidence. You remember why?
Because it got so much like media attention.
They caught 10 kinds of hell over this decision, and ultimately they ruled in his favor again the second time. So you could fire somebody for any number of reasons. This Melissa Nelson page, though, oh yeah, this had the miscellaneous porn on it. And if you remember on this was the article that was dealing with child porn. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You seem to remember it, Becky.
Oh, so basically what they're saying is that